Just now we're getting word that all roads, every road in Nassau County, according to County Executive Ed Mangano, has now been closed. Stay off the roads. No driving at all on any road in Nassau County. That is a place where about 1 million people, 1.25 million people live. So everyone urged to stay where they are. Watch us on television. If you don't have power, watch us streaming on the web or on your iPhone or on your iPad or on any other tablet you might have.
Yeah, we can't stress that enough. We've been seeing so many different live shots. We've seen trees down in homes. This is a dangerous time to be outside. We've seen transformers that have blown fires. We've seen wall collapses. This is a time where you need to be safe. Stay where you are. We want to actually check in with Lee. Are you available right now?
We're going to go to Jeff Begay's in Rockaway Park in Queens with the latest.
Okay, we'll check in with Lee.
There was a fire behind you, Jeff, and we got a good shot of it as you were feeding in your take. Talk about that house fire behind you.
That's right, Bill. And the house fire, it's more than a house fire. It's really spreading through businesses and homes here on Rockaway Beach Boulevard and about 116th Street. Right to my left, there is a fire that's still burning at this hour. We can't get too close to it because there's still a lot of high water. And we know that FDNY rescue crews, members of the SOC, they call themselves the SOC unit, they are in the water in a boat right now trying to rescue people who they think might be in some of these homes that are in the path of this spreading fire. The fire is spreading because firefighters can't get to it with their hoses. Of course, there's still a lot of high water. We are in Rockaway Park, a part of the area.
Okay, we just lost Jeff. Jeff is in Rockaway Park in Queens, and he is talking about rescue efforts that are underway who are in the path of a spreading fire. We're looking at live pictures right now. We're seeing, well, actually, these are not live pictures. These are pictures that were fed in earlier. We can see somebody walking through the water, trying to get to firefighters. This is a serious and dangerous situation right now.
Firefighters just can't get to these fires. We've had reports of other buildings on fire. This is the worst that we've seen, and it's, as Jeff said before he lost his signal, this is spreading because there's just no way to fight it. And you'd think with all this rain and the water around it, it wouldn't burn, but of course that's not really putting it out when you have all these winds whipping at 50 to 70 miles an hour. Going through the beach areas like that, it's just going to take other buildings with it.
Yeah, Bill, and we heard from Jeff when we went to his first live shot that a fire started in one building and spread to another building. Jeff, can you fill us in now? We were talking about that rescue effort that's underway where you are.
Yeah, and it's well underway. They've been in the water, members of this SOC unit of the FDNY. They've been in the water for the last couple of hours trying to get to people who live in some of these apartments above some of these businesses here on Rockaway Beach Boulevard. They've been, in some cases, the members of this unit have been scaling the walls, climbing through windows, trying to get to families that are still trapped in these buildings as this fire spread. You know, we talked a lot about people living in this zone, Zone 4, who maybe should have evacuated but didn't. Many of those people are in their apartments right now and unfortunately in the path of this fire. And about 10, maybe less than that, members of this SOC unit are in the water now trying to get them out. It's right down the block from where I am. This is where it's happening. We're at 116th Street and Rockaway Beach Boulevard. And we aren't the only ones who are essentially stranded here because of the high water. There are members of the NYPD who are stranded here as well. But they have been helping some of the people that the SOC unit have gotten out of these apartments in a little sort of a garage on the other side of this fire engine. That's where the people who are being rescued from their homes that are in the path of this fire, they're right over here in this garage. This is about the only shelter they could find here. So once they're taken out of the high water, out of their apartments, they're brought here for shelter. They have nothing to do but wait. We're all waiting here. We're sort of stranded on this section of Rockaway Park, which, as I said, is sandwiched between the Atlantic Ocean and Jamaica Bay. And about 8 o'clock tonight at high tide, the water converged and we were trapped. So we went to the small slice of high ground that we could find, and that was right here. And that's where we found members of the FDNY, the SOC unit, as well as members of the NYPD. And in the meantime, this fire erupted down the block at about 114th Street and Rockaway Beach Boulevard, and it continues to spread even at this hour.
And Jeff, you may not know the answer to this, but you know, do crews have any idea how many people are in need of being rescued?
No, you know what? They just keep coming. I know that they've rescued maybe about 30 people, maybe more in the last couple of hours, but they're still out there in the water because they're concerned that there could still be more people in these apartments above these businesses here on Rockaway Beach Boulevard. So they are bringing people in, and we have some video of that. They're walking them through the water, some people carrying their dogs, their pets, and they're bringing these folks to higher ground. And then members of the SOC unit, Special Operations Command for the FDNY, they are going back in. They are taking their boat, some of them wading through the high water and trying to reach some of these apartments that are in the path of this fire, which, as I said, continues to spread. Also, members of the NYPD, they are here helping out as well.
Oh, boy, do they have a task on their hands this evening. I can only imagine the situation that they are dealing with right now. Jeff, you talked about how they're scaling the walls. They're climbing through windows to get to these people. This is not an easy job, certainly under a cloud of darkness.
No, and it's really incredible to see some of this unfolding here behind me. It's not what any of us, and I think it's fair to say, members of the SOC unit or the NYPD members here, it's not what any of us expected to happen. We were all sort of stranded here because of the high water moving in so quickly. But as it did, they noticed this fire developing. Members of the SOC unit went toward the fire and noticed that there were people close to the fire, people that they had to get out of the way of the path of the fire, which, as I said, continues to spread. The good thing is the rain has stopped in this area, and if you see behind me, the water is receding just a little bit. There's an NYPD police van in the distance. That was almost covered about an hour ago, but now the water is receding, and hopefully that helps the rescue effort out here.
Okay, Jeff Begay's reporting from Rockaway Park, where again 30 people, according to Jeff's estimate, has been rescued from that area. And we are going to keep a close eye on this one and go back to Jeff as the news warrants.
We're talking about how dangerous this firefighting situation is. We're just getting word from the Easton, Connecticut Fire Department. They're confirming that a firefighter died in the line of duty tonight. We don't know exactly how he died, but he was out there fighting something. Doing something on the job and died. And we're going to try to get more information. But this is just how dangerous this is. This is a deadly storm here in the tri-state area. We have reports of a few people killed, falling trees and whatnot, and it's just a great indication to just stay indoors. As we look at Lower Manhattan from the Brooklyn side of the Brooklyn Bridge, and much of Lower Manhattan up to 39th Street and south is without power at this hour. 368,000 customers without power, 2/3 of them in Manhattan.
And we are now joined by Lauren Glassberg, who's in the newsroom. And Lauren, you have been keeping a close eye on some of the new videos that are coming through at our website, people tweeting pictures. What do you have for us now?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Sade, this is really a storm that's filled with jarring images everywhere you look. And of course, our crews are gathering much of that video, but we're really relying on our viewers as well for sending us pictures that they're seeing in their neighborhoods, and we hope that they're doing so safely. We know that Lee Goldberg showed this to you earlier, but it is such a jarring image of Ground Zero, sort of a tiered waterfall effect where the scaffold and the metal and the construction site is. It sort of mirrors the memorial pools that are just nearby. This vantage point of the FDR Drive from high above, which of course is where you want to be right now, high above, the FDR flooded out there. And then we'll take a look at this image, which was sent by Dave Khalil. He's shooting this from the Bronx, Fordham Heights, and he's looking out across to New Jersey. It was a transformer fire. This video is really creating a lot of interest. It's a tree in Brooklyn that's almost breathing. You can see it's snapped, and it will probably fall down. We don't know if it has by now. This flooding on Water Street, go figure. That's in Lower Manhattan between Catherine and Market Streets, flooded out. And this, the buckling boardwalk in Seaside Heights. Just another image that people have captured for us today. all of them, everywhere you look, it's another astounding image. It is really a storm that gives great fodder, and everybody has cell phones that can take pictures, so everyone is at the ready taking these images, and we appreciate them sending them to us. We do want them to do it with safety in mind, of course. We don't want you to go out there and risk your lives, but if you do have a vantage point and you can take video or send us a picture from somewhere safe, we'd ask you to do that. You can send it to any of our Twitter accounts or to 7 Online, and we'll be happy to post those. So we really are reliant on our viewers for their images, their feedback, as much as we are getting information from our crews, helping to disseminate the news.
Lauren,
okay, Lauren Glassberg, we are actually here in the studio, and we're talking about power outages. We are having some power issues here in the studio, but we are going to stick with you. And, you know, we've been talking about it happening throughout the New York City. We are feeling it here.
We've twice left the set while Lauren was talking to rush to the newsroom to take her seat. And we have a great new newsroom, studio here, and our power has been restored, I hope.
Bill, I didn't know you could move there.
Yes, well,
have you ever seen us run out here
when I'm off the air.
So quickly?
Okay, we have a lot of people without power, and this is going to continue for some time. We heard the New Jersey PSCNG spokeswoman say that it could be up to 7 days before power is fully restored. There are 1.5 million customers in New Jersey without power. By our estimates, we have about 3.2 million customers in the greater New York metro area, which is what we call the tri-state, Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. And they are without power at this point, and we don't know how long it's going to take to get the power back
We
on.
don't, and Karen herself says that she is unsure how long it's going to take, but certainly tomorrow. She is saying if winds are below 40 miles per hour, that their crews will go up in bucket trucks and just really begin this process on trying to get things restored. It could take quite some time. 950 people have come from out of state to really try to clean up these areas and try to get power back up and running. They have 426 tree contractors, and as we know, trees have just been falling down throughout the tri-state. We know New York City has reported more than 1,000 trees, and that was a few hours ago, so I can only imagine what that number is up to at this point. But folks, we are all in this together. We're going to continue to guide you through this storm.
Okay. We're going to go to David and Liz, who are sort of backing it up here in case our power goes out. Yep. They're in the newsroom.
We are here, and we are up and running. We have power on this side of the ABC complex here. So
we should tell you we have power too, but we've lost it twice in the last 4 minutes. So we're waiting for it to. We think it's going to stay on for a while, and I think that's the main thing. There are a lot of people, though, Liz and David, and you both have children, so you know this. They are faced with some major dilemmas as you look at Lower Manhattan, Liz and David. A lot of those people with families, and we don't know what they're going to do. In fact, we're just seeing lights in the background. It looked like some other kind of big lighting thing going on in the back somewhere in Manhattan on the East River there. And we just lost our
And we just lost power again, Liz and David.
And we should say that we are taking some surges here as well. The lights in our newsroom keep flickering on and off, but the backup generators, they will be kicking in if that should happen. But Bill, you're right. I mean, as I was racing over to get over here, I quickly texted my family to say to them, get the flashlights ready, because as you are looking at this live picture right now, the majority of Manhattan has been plunged into darkness at this hour at 10:43. That is a much more encouraging shot right there of seeing the lights on, but we're here on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and a lot of it is dark right now.
Yeah, in the initial stages of this, Con Ed was doing it on its own in a preemptive measure to deal with the strain on the system. But along the way, with the water flooding into various parts of Manhattan and in other areas, surely some of this is direct result of the surge of water that's been occurring. We have Jim Dolan and as well as many reporters covering this from every possible area. We're going to go right now to Jim Dolan, who's in Atlantic City, who's right there when the storm first hit and came across. Jim, brief us on what the latest is there.
We actually had to get out of Atlantic City, David. We are in a place called Pleasantville, and even here, a few miles from Atlantic City, the water is rising quickly. It is rising really from all directions. So, and because of the way the wind is swirling, it's not really coming from one direction. because of the way the wind is swirling, you don't really know where the water is going to rise. This has been a tale of several storms, really, today. It was blasting Atlantic City so hard early on, and then for more than 2 hours, it seemed to almost disappear. There were times this afternoon when there was almost no wind, when the leaves on the trees weren't even being blown about in this wind, and then it came back with a vengeance, and it came back strong, and it was blowing hard, and that's when people had come outside because they were curious as to what was going on, why it had calmed down. People came out, they got caught in the heavy wind, the rain picked up, there was flooding, and the waters were rising very, very quickly, and it became a very dangerous situation. Then it seemed to calm down again for a little while, but now the winds are back. It is a furious wind here, and again, a swirling wind, so you don't really know where it's coming from and where the waters will rise next. There are no safe avenues into Atlantic City. We tried to get back in from several venues, from several different streets and avenues, and it's just impossible. And there were a couple of very dangerous points there where the water just seemed to rise behind us and in front of us. But we did manage to get out, and we are in Pleasantville now. And some of Pleasantville is actually kind of high, so we're not experiencing any flooding right where we are right now. But within a couple of blocks of where we are, the water is rising. It's in the streets and in people's homes already. So it's still a very fluid situation and not over by a long shot. Actually, just in the last few minutes, the winds have calmed down just a little bit. But you see emergency vehicles on the street, and they are searching for any problems that they might encounter and stopping people from going into dangerous areas. Again, you don't go into those areas intentionally, but it becomes dangerous very quickly because you don't know where the water is going to rise next.
Certainly so. Jim, I know that much of Atlantic City was in the dark. They had lost power hours ago. Where you are right now, is there power?
There is power on the streets where I am right now, but the homes are, by and large, without power unless you have a generator. But a lot of the street lights are operating, and that gives a little bit of light on the street. But again, all of the homes are without power. I don't know why that works. It's just the way the grid works, I suppose. But almost all of the homes are without power. But there are lights on the street, and that makes it easier.
Hey, Jim, when things dry up there, can you give us an estimation of what it's going to take to get things back up and running in that area?
It's going to take some time, David. It really is. It is not going to be easy, and in large part because Atlantic City is so low. It's so low to the ground. So it is going to take some time. It was not one of those places where they preemptively knocked out power. Transformers were exploding through much of the day today, and a transformer would blow and you'd see a block of lights go out. So it is, and even into the evening we have been seeing transformers blow up here. So it's not going to be easy. They have a lot of work ahead of them, and because of the heavy winds, a lot of power lines came down. A lot of telephone poles just snapped in half. And so that they definitely are going to have their work cut out for them. And, of course, they can't even get to that work for at least several hours until the winds calm down. All
right. Jim Dolan is in Pleasantville, New Jersey, bringing us up to date on the situation there. Jim, we appreciate it. And you were looking right now at a live picture of Manhattan. You can see majority of Manhattan in that live shot right there is dark, regardless of the bridge that you're looking at right there. We do want to let you know that we have actually lost power in our studio, and we are now sitting in our newsroom, continuing to broadcast from our newsroom where our backup generators have kicked in. But that is the reason why we are staying on this shot right here. We do want to send it out to Jim Hoffer. He is outside, I believe, the Queens Midtown Tunnel. Is that it?
That's it, yeah, the Queens Midtown Tunnel. And you know, when else would you be able to stand in the middle of the entrance to the Queens Midtown Tunnel? There is no traffic. I mean, that's just how bad things are. And this is really the end point for us, the end point in a 3-hour odyssey that it took us to get from the North Shore of Long Island here to this point. Of course, we're trying to get into Manhattan, but the Queens Midtown Tunnel is closed, as are all of the East River crossings. So really, Long Island is completely cut off from Manhattan. You cannot get into Manhattan. And we want to sort of show you some of the video that we shot on our trip into this point here at the Queens Midtown Tunnel. Everywhere you turned, really, it was like a maze trying to get here to Queens from the North Shore. Trees down, power lines down. I mean, it was really, really rather dangerous. I mean, no one should be out on the roads at this time, because you're not going to be able to get to where you want to go, as you can see. And as one example, we want to come back to the camera now. We wanted to interview someone who was trying to get back into Manhattan. He had a long day at work. He is a cab driver, also owns a cab company. His name is Ghazi. And Ghazi, tell us about your attempts to try and get home tonight.
No success. I tried everywhere. I heard this was open, so I came this way. I found it to be closed, and I don't know how to get home.
What will you do then? Because you're trying to get to New Jersey, correct?
I have no idea what to do. I was hoping you guys can direct me from here. So I gotta keep on trying. I don't know what else to do.
Okay. Well, good luck, Ghazi. Thank you very much. So there you have it. I mean, that's just one example, a small example, one person. But this storm, of course, has impacted hundreds of thousands of people, of course. And, you know, this is where we'll leave it. The Queens Midtown Tunnel, it is closed, as are all the crossings into Manhattan tonight. Don't drive. Please don't drive, because you're not going to get anywhere tonight, and it is just too dangerous to be outside and to be driving.
Very good point, Jim. We should also say the Nassau County roads, all of them are closed, per the Nassau County executive, Ed Mangano. That came out just a little while ago. Jim, can you go ahead and describe to us what the conditions were like, what you saw as you made that 3-hour odyssey back into the city?
Well, you know, it's interesting because we really had to, the only way we got back really is because we were able to follow a volunteer fire company from Bayville through some of the back roads, and we would stop periodically as we came to trees, and they would get out chainsaws from the fire truck, and they would cut through them and hack through them, and we were right behind them. They allowed us to be part of their convoy. Otherwise, we'd still be out there. So it was really amazing. You know, my hat's off to the Locust Valley Fire Company, because it's because of them we were able to even get this far. Of course, so close to Manhattan, but still not able to get there. But it really is a mess out on Long Island tonight. And, you know, you talk a lot about the storm surge and all of the water that is coming in from both the North Shore and on the Atlantic side, the South Shore. But there's a real problem in between as well, with all of the roads and all of the downed trees. It's no wonder that upwards of almost 500,000 people are without power on Long Island tonight.
And Jim, have you gotten any word from anyone along their travels when some of these will open up again?
You know what? I think it will be days, literally days. We were out in this section during Tropical Storm Irene a little more than a year ago. I was in the same exact area, and there were downed trees. It was tough to get back into the city, I will tell you that. But I know that within about 2 days they had power on back there, and the roads were cleared. But, you know, that was nothing compared to what we saw tonight. I mean, literally, there was no road that we would turn on that did not have down power lines and huge trees that were down. It's any wonder that no one was injured out there. God forbid.
Certainly so. All right. Jim Hoffer in front of the Queens Midtown Tunnel, which has closed down. And we're going to head back out now to Lucy Yang. She is in Weehawken. Lucy, how are things looking there right now?
Well, we are in the Shades section of Weehawken, and when we drove down this thoroughfare about an hour ago, we came upon a huge rescue scene. There were emergency vehicles all up and down this thoroughfare because of a very tense and difficult rescue situation going on Chestnut Street, just beyond those fire trucks. We have some very dramatic video to show you, and as we roll this video, I want you to look for one particular woman that rescue workers brought out of her house in a Halloween coffin decoration. Yes, the irony is all there. It was a difficult rescue situation because folks were trapped in their homes. The water was rising and rising as rescue workers were going in, trying to get folks out. These are the very people officials wanted to leave their homes, wanted folks like these residents to evacuate when they had the time, and because they didn't want to end up in the situation where rescue workers were used to make these very difficult rescues this evening.
I was scared that I was gonna drown. It was just crazy. Had a hard time getting to my out of my house.
Water went up to your neck.
Yeah, the water went up to my neck. Sometimes it went over my head.
We had to go out the second-story window. These guys helped us down from the second part of the roof.
Okay, you hear that man having to dive out of a second-floor window of one little boy going under the water. Anyway, the rescue workers were able to bring residents out of their homes, get them on buses, bring them to shelters. Some had friends and family to go to, but again, officials were hoping these people would have evacuated before this moment came. Now, on another note, I have to tell you, this is where we began our journey today in Weehawken. We found a gas station just down the block that had covered all the tanks. Workers had covered all the tanks with plastic wrap to protect them. Tonight, that gas station is out of gas and completely flooded. We're live in Weehawken this evening. I'm Lucy Yang for Channel 7 Eyewitness News, and those pictures I'll post on my tweet in just a minute.
Yeah, and this is exactly what everyone was worried about, these rescue efforts, and it's ongoing again and again. Thank you so much, Lucy Yang. I just want to read real quick what Reuters is reporting now. 19 Con Ed workers are saying trapped in a New York City power plant, but I'm telling you that is a false report. And of course, some of that comes in, and you have to try and digest it and get it confirmed. Right. But at this point, that's a false report of some of the things that we're hearing.
Right. You're looking right now at a shot of Lower Manhattan, much of Lower Manhattan from 34th Street South, in the dark right now. A lot of it preemptive by Con Edison, a lot of it happening because system is just not able to hold up under Sandy. We should tell you that we are waiting for a news conference, an update by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. That is supposed to happen sometime after 11 p.m. tonight, just at the top of the hour, happening in just a few minutes from now. He recently toured, you're looking at a live picture of that, where that news conference will happen. He recently toured Lower Manhattan in the Battery, where we are seeing all the flooding, where the subway system has been flooded out, and also the area where Con Edison is primarily concerned with. So we are expecting that update to happen in just a few minutes from now.
Stay with us. We're going to go take a short break and be right back.
Stay with Channel 7 Eyewitness News for continuing coverage of Sandy. On air, on your computer at 7 Online, and on the WABC iPhone and iPad apps. Plus, send your pictures of the storm to @WeatherABC7. Most of the U.S. Senate is made up of lawyers and career politicians. They haven't passed a budget in 3 years, and they mostly look like Chris Murphy, another lawyer and career politician.
I'm definitely not. I struggled out of bankruptcy and grew a business, creating 600 good jobs here in Connecticut. But now our economy is hurting. And if you think this is the best we can do, then Murphy's your guy. It's time to think differently. I'm Linda McMahon, and I approve this message.
The first look is only the beginning. Introducing a stunning work of technology. Introducing the entirely new Lexus ES and the first ever ES Hybrid. Lease the 2013 ES 350 for $429 a month for 27 months with $39.79 due at signing. See you at Lexus dealer.
I don't spend money on gasoline.
I am
probably going to the gas station about once a month.
Last time I was at a gas station was about, I would say, 2 months ago.
I very rarely put gas in my Chevy Volt.
I go to the gas station such a small amount that I forget how to put gas in my car.
And it's not just these owners giving the Volt high praise. Volt received the J.D. Power & Associates Appeal Award 2 years in a row.
Tracking Sandy. Stay on top of it with the Eyewitness News AccuWeather team. Now, a special Storm Watch edition of Channel 7 Eyewitness News. Tracking Sandy.
I'm Liz Cho along with David Navarro. We are watching continuous coverage of Hurricane Sandy, a monster superstorm now turning deadly, slamming the tri-state area. Power outages are widespread. Streets in large parts of Manhattan underwater as the flooding spreads, and massive power outages to lower Manhattan right now, leaving hundreds of thousands of people in the dark. Millions more losing electricity across the region.
And this just in, city officials are confirming that an evacuation is underway at New York University Langone Medical Center. The backup generator at the hospital has failed. Right now, trying to find out what is happening with those people, where they're going exactly, and how severe this situation is. The pounding winds toppling a crane, leaving tons of metal twisting in the wind above Manhattan. That crane hanging precariously from a skyscraper near Central Park.
Yeah, the storm just absolutely hammering New Jersey, causing major flooding up and down the shore, as well as lower Manhattan. And good evening once again to you. I'm Liz Cho, along with David Navarro. And again, we told you that we are dealing with some breaking news right now, that New York NYU Langone Medical Center right now under evacuation. The patients in that hospital being evacuated from the hospital because their backup generators have failed. We do not know how many patients we are talking about at this point, or where those patients will be going. So we are continuing to follow this breaking development throughout this massive coverage of Hurricane Sandy. We're going to go right now and check in with Amy Freeze, who is tracking the storm, which came ashore a few hours ago, and talking about the record surge that we saw at, was it 9:45 tonight, Amy, in the Battery?
Yes, we had high tide surges with the surge coming in between about 9 and 10 o'clock this evening. To get people up to speed on what's happened, is Sandy has made her way onshore right around 8 o'clock in the Atlantic City area, and it was really when the storm came onshore was hurricane force winds, 80-mile-an-hour winds, and also a record low pressure when the storm came onshore, meaning that it maintained its intensity as it made landfall. So this surge met all expectations. In many locations, we superseded the expectations, and so that is the problem with all the water. We've passed the high tide for places like Battery Park City, but there are still some high tides to go. For example, just in Lindenhurst, we're getting ready to approach the high tide there with the surge in the back bay. Still with the water pretty high, there will be major flooding in that area. Later on this evening, right around midnight, we'll have some more high tides across the area. The critical places to watch for: Kings Point will be just after midnight. We're looking for major flooding there with the surge. Also, Stamford, Connecticut, major flooding. Your high tide is at midnight. Bridgeport, major flooding. Some real concerns there. New Haven, Connecticut, just before midnight. All of these areas looking for major flooding. What's happening is right now, as the winds are coming out of the southeast of the storm, we're going to start to see some changes. For example, LaGuardia, one of the places covered in water with a southeast wind, now we can see that water flush out. However, on the other side of the sound, it's not possible to see the flush. So coastal Connecticut continuing to get a push of water at the same time they're getting ready for high tide, and they've already seen one surge of water come on shore. So that combination is going to make it real tricky overnight for coastal Connecticut to deal with the water that's still left. Rain showers not incredibly impressive, but looking just offshore, some yellow bands setting up, and so we will have more moderate rainfall coming into the Jersey shore. Still at this time, it looks like we could see wind gusts sustain across the area from a majority of this evening into early tomorrow. And if we're getting a surface wind of anywhere between 45 to 50 miles an hour in the city, we're going to continue to have wind tunnel effect. We're going to continue to see things have the possibility of flying around, and still a dangerous situation. So again, people encouraged to stay off the streets. Here's a look at the record flood that happened at 8:53 for Battery Park. This was at 13 feet. Unprecedented record flooding there. Jamaica Bay, major flood as well. Kings Point, this is the next one up after Lindenhurst hits their high tide. Stamford, Connecticut at midnight. This will be a major situation. Again, we're continuing to see the storm as it makes landfall. And while it doesn't look like a huge amount of rain, the wind is still incredibly impressive. It's a massively large wind field. By overnight, we'll see the showers tapering just a bit. The wind will continue. By tomorrow morning, some more brief showers making their way in. We continue with the wind as well. So the threat is not completely out of here. And this was our concern, is a long duration event and impacting a huge area. Liz and David, as we've gone throughout this entire event, unfortunately, the forecast has really stayed on track. It's been a perfect combination, unfortunately, a bad recipe for a major unprecedented storm that is epic in many ways. And unfortunately, the impacts have been even surprising for the forecasters as we put these numbers out here. Some things you just can't predict will happen, and that's exactly what we're seeing unfolding in this situation.
It has been remarkable to watch this storm slam into our area. And I know you guys were talking about it. Even though this was a Category 1 storm when it came on shore, it really kind of corresponds to a Category 3 hurricane slamming into our area.
Absolutely. The intensity of the storm is one reason for that, but also the geography. You have to think of New York Harbor and the way that the Jersey Shore lines up. It's almost like a mouth. In fact, the geography description of it is called the New York Bight. And so as the hurricane came in, it's basically like this open mouth ready to catch the water. Only it didn't really work out too much. It was too much water too fast. But that's exactly how the geography is set up, and so a perfect storm of events came together. It looks like this could be a situation that's difficult to ever repeat in history. It's possible, but not probable is how we've always described a situation like this.
It's still so dramatic to see, though, firsthand. You warned us about it, and now we're seeing it. So much of Manhattan, so much of our area underwater right now, and the damage is building up. Thanks so much, Amy. We appreciate that. Let's take you live now to Long Branch, where Phil Lipoff has been following the storm and its damage there from New Jersey. And it was very dramatic when originally we were watching some of the stuff by the ocean. Where are you now, Phil? What can you tell us what's going on?
David, I'm on Branchport Avenue in Long Branch, and what you see behind me is water from the Shrewsbury River. We are well ahead of it. We've been moving the truck and inching up just to stay away from it. But I can tell you that it has started to level off. But people in these homes back here, there are people in there. We've seen probably 10 people come out of these homes over the last couple of hours and make their way out. But there are still people in their homes riding this out. And boy, they have to ride it out right now. This is some of the worst rain we've seen here in Long Branch all night long. And I got to tell you, the wind gusts are some of the worst we've seen as well at this hour. We had a kind of a lull in all of this. I was listening to Jim Dolan report just about a half hour ago. He's 60, 70 miles south of us. But exactly what happened there is happening here. We had a lull, and now it's picking up again. It's as wet as it's been all night, and the wind gusts have to be, maybe Amy can check on this, the wind gusts here in the Long Branch area have to be 60, 70 miles an hour. It's sort of what I was feeling sustained when I was down in Seaside Heights earlier on in the day. This is pretty indicative of what you're going to see all over Long Branch. People are going to wake up tomorrow, and there is major flooding all over this area. We saw some cars stuck over by Pier Village, and I got to tell you, Pier Village took a beating. The ocean was actually coming up from underneath the concrete and breaking the concrete. Waves were coming over one of the restaurants right there on the ocean. So this area is taking a pounding right now, and the wind and the rain has not let up here. And it's picked back up, actually, more so than it has been all night. David?
How passable are the roads right now in that area?
They're not. That's a good question, David. They're not. People are having to go, the people that are out, and people shouldn't be out, but we've seen some people drive in and around the roads, and what you've seen here, we've seen several cars come down pretty quickly down this road, hit the water, and then reverse. We saw cars stuck on 37, and that's impassable. So a lot of the places, a lot of the roads you just can't get by, and hopefully this water will recede a little bit throughout the evening and into the morning, but right now, many of the roads here, David, are just not passable.
Phil, we were just talking to Jeff Smith and Amy Freeze, and they said to us that the wind speeds right now are around 65 miles an hour. So that is what you are feeling right now.
And that is exactly what it feels like. When we were down in Seaside Heights today, it was 50, they told me, then 60, then 70, Lee was talking about. And every time it increased, we could feel it. And it's not sustained right now. So every once in a while, like right now, it's okay. Then there'll be this huge wind gust that will almost knock you off your feet. So when people sort of open up their doors and say, oh, it's not that bad, maybe it's passed, it has not passed, do not come out on these roads because there are cars stuck in, I'd say, 4 or 5 feet of water, even on 37 where we were.
All right, Phil Lipoff reporting from Long Branch. We appreciate it. We're going to head over to Long Island. And right now we have on the phone is Nassau County Executive Ed Mangano. Ed, it's Liz Cho along with David Navarro. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Can you go ahead and fill us in? What is the latest situation there right now?
Well, the forecasts have come true, and we are now in a rescue mode for many of the people that did not heed our warnings and remained in the evacuation zones. We have very serious issues in the city of Long Beach. The Commissioner of Health has put out a do not consume water alert. That means you cannot drink the water, you cannot brush your teeth with the water, you can't boil the water to make it pure. Do not drink or consume or use the water in Long Beach until further notice. We have multiple traffic lights out throughout the county. We've ordered the roads be cleared only for emergency vehicles at this time. We have massive power outages. Our public shelters, now people are turning to them now. There's plenty of capacity. We ask them to do that. We would ask the media's help to make certain that people with non-life-threatening emergencies use the non-emergency hotline, which is 888-684-4274. Please reserve 911 for life-threatening emergencies. We're getting way too many calls there that are not life-threatening. Please only use 911 for life-threatening calls. We have many residents that need that particular service, and we have been responding to literally hundreds of calls with trapped residents. We have firefighters that have responded and wound up having themselves trapped. This is a very dangerous storm and has dangerous effects, and we are responding to them. We have transported a lady in labor to the hospital, and we continue to assist residents from what really is a very dangerous storm. That's the situation that we are in right now. We've asked the Coast Guard for a helicopter so we can survey the rescue efforts and get better intel so we can approach the rescue attempts more safely. We've sent high axle vehicles throughout the north and south shores, Long Beach, Oceanside, East Rockaway, Island Park, Woodmere, Lawrence, Baldwin, Bayville, Oyster Bay, Seacliff, Manhasset, Roslyn, Seaford, and Massapequa are where the most serious flooding exists right now. And in many of those areas, we have residents that are trapped.
So you're in a rescue mode right now. Any way to estimate when you might be in an actual cleanup mode and move into that stage?
Not until this storm really subsides, other than we have DPW crews that will remove and clear the roadways for our emergency crews at this point in time.
How long do you think you'll be able to continue with these rescues for? Do you think you'll be able to continue with them throughout the night, or are the conditions there so dangerous that you don't even want to send first responders out?
No, our first responders are out. We are out rescuing. We are concentrating on those that are in life-threatening situations, and the public's going to have to understand that. If you chose to stay in an evacuated zone and you're now trapped, but you're fine, there's no problem with your health, then you need to shelter in place. At this point, we have deployed, and we want to thank Governor Cuomo and the National Guard for the high axle vehicles and the Humvees. They are an important part of our rescue efforts here, and they are being deployed.
Quickly, if you had a chance to assess the injuries at this point, how many you may have had, to what nature
we have one reported fatality from a fallen tree. We have cardiac arrests. You know, we have people in labor. You know, in these weather events, the normal emergencies do occur, and we need to, you know, help them as if it was even a nice day. Labors take place and other health emergencies that rise, and that's what we're finding right now. We also have had reports of over 30 fires throughout the county. So we're responding to that. We've helped, at this stage, over 171 people we have helped through our rescue efforts, and we continue to respond to literally hundreds of calls.
Well, you've helped an enormous amount of people, but let me ask you this. How frustrated are you? Because I know for days now you have been urging those people in those evacuation zones to get out of the area, hoping to avoid a situation like this.
Very frustrated. We're obviously disappointed that those that chose to stay in their home now find them in a position for calling, for help. And obviously, we ask not to put our first responders in danger, and now that can't be avoided. So we pray that everyone comes through this safely without injury, but it is very dangerous out there right now. I can tell you that much.
It is still very dangerous indeed. And just to reiterate that there is a do not consume water order for all of Long Beach, correct?
All of Long Beach and also Mill Neck Estates, if you could. Mill Neck Estates have the same do not consume order. The do not consume water order from the Board of Health, again, you cannot boil it to make it usable. It can't be used at all. No, you can't brush your teeth with it. You can't consume it. You can't purify it.
That's a very important point. Hopefully folks there stocked up on bottled water before the storm hit. Any idea how long that do not consume order may be in effect for?
We do not know. The water district there, both the primary power and the secondary power is out. So it's not pumping, it's not purifying, it's not working.
All right. Nassau County Executive Ed Mangano, you clearly have an extremely busy and stressful night in front of you. Hundreds of people needing to be rescued from a variety of places in Nassau County. Ed, we appreciate the update.
Thank you.
And you talked about power outages there. We have some dramatic video we want to share with you right now. This video shows an explosion at a Con Ed plant on East 14th and the FDR. Gives you a little sense of why so many people are having trouble with power right now. Take a look and you see as it's building up, and there's the explosion.
There it goes. There it goes. We're watching this as you watch it on our air right now, but dramatic video of these transformers exploding, happening on the east side a few hours ago. It happened at a power plant at East 14th Street near the FDR. But much of lower Manhattan in the dark still at this hour. Again, we should tell you, and this is a picture that was tweeted out by the Port Authority. This is the pass station in Hoboken.
Look at the force of the water pushing past the door and rushing right there onto the area there where the turnstiles are. Amazing. It just tells you the force of the water, this being low enough that the water found it and moved its way into that area.
It's just a truly surreal image. We want to go ahead and check back in with Amy Freeze. Amy, it's 11:15 now. We're about 45 minutes away from high tide, correct, over in Stamford, Connecticut, and that part of the area.
Yes, and these high tides will coincide with still very high water levels and still a push of water on shore, surge, if you will, in some of these locations. So the high tides, especially for coastal Connecticut, will be very sensitive. Look outside our studios, and you can see that we have seen a power surge here, and we're dark inside the studio, so we've moved over to our backup studio. And as we go throughout the next little while, we'll go ahead and be able to continue to broadcast here with you. Our wind speeds are some of the gauges. Look at this gauge right here in Newark, 75. That is not the current wind speed. That's the last speed it recorded before it was blown out. So these 45 to 55 mile an hour wind gusts, those are more accurate. And we are looking at the wind direction coming out of the southeast. This is going to be very important for us as the storm starts to push, a southeasterly push like this. We will see those bays, back bays there on the north shore of Long Island start to flush out. Good news, the water levels will go down there, but coastal Connecticut, you continue to get the push. These are the rain bands that we were watching earlier start to move on shore. The yellow indicates just slightly heavier rainfall. So we still have some pockets there for the Jersey Shore, parts of Danbury, Connecticut, still seeing some heavier rain showers move in. Now, these aren't going to be rain showers that flood, but still create wet and more water, of course, that we don't need. Here's the futurecast taking us through the overnight hours. We will continue to see the spin in the storm, winds sustained about 45 miles an hour overnight. There could be a temporary lull in the early morning hours tomorrow, but then I think the wind winds could pick back up before everything really starts to settle down on Tuesday afternoon. Now, the high tides that are going to be occurring on Tuesday morning, those will occur Tuesday morning. For example, Battery Park hit a record flood at 8:53 tonight. Again, tomorrow morning at 9:07, they'll be looking at a high tide, but we're only looking for a minor to moderate water level there. If you were watching early this morning or early Monday morning when you saw the first high tide, it will be similar to that again in the Battery, where we're right up against the splash wall. Kings Point, major flooding forecast for that location. Water level still high there from the surge, and then the high tide expected under the full moon. Stamford, Connecticut, major flooding expected at midnight tonight. Coastal Connecticut still has the push of water coming on shore. We have a southeast wind right now that's shoving water on the south-facing shores of Connecticut, and so we'll continue to see the water pile up in those locations. And then coinciding with the high tide, we're going to see some major damage there. And I know that the governor there in Connecticut has been very concerned. The earlier high tides for Bridgeport were above the forecasted amounts, and that's even before this highest of high tides that they're expecting tonight. The planning forecast, you can expect a little bit less with shower and wind tonight, but then tomorrow again at daybreak we could actually see winds continuing sustained around 40-45 miles an hour. And if you have that at the surface, even walking around in the city, you get the wind tunnel effect, and there's still a surge of wind that we could have some issues. So we're not out of the woods completely yet. If you've just been joining us tonight and you're wondering what the latest is, Sandy did make landfall at about 8 o'clock right around Atlantic City. Record-breaking storm impact now being felt across the area.
All right, Amy, and you had mentioned Connecticut's Governor Daniel Malloy. He was, as you said, very concerned about the rising floodwaters there, and in fact said to Connecticut residents that they are going to need to hunker down, that they are trying to rescue people who are in danger, but because the conditions there were so bad, he was telling them to get to a higher floor and hunker down, and they may have to ride out the storm until daybreak when they can finally get rescue crews out there. All right.
Unfortunately, their water never was able to lower because the onshore flow has just been so intense for them as the storm spun onshore.
We are so much still in a rescue effort at this point as the storm still barrels through. We talked to Nassau County Executive. He's still making a rescue effort. And we have an incident to tell you about at NYU Langone Hospital.
Right. We're really following breaking news within this story. As we told you at the top of the hour, NYU is right now in the middle of being evacuated because their backup generator has failed, and they are now taking all the patients out of the hospital and bringing them to other hospitals throughout New York City. Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson is there. Kim, can you tell us the very latest on what exactly is happening with those patients?
Oh, it is an immediate and urgent situation. I'm on First Avenue. Right behind me is NYU Medical Center. I want to show you what's happening. Right here on First Avenue, there is a line of roughly 25 to 30 waiting ambulances. That's what you're looking at now. They go up First Avenue, around the corner to 30th Street. Those ambulances, we've seen many stretchers, empty stretchers, rolled in here to the lobby of NYU Medical Center. We're seeing those stretchers go in the lobby entrance right here on First Avenue. We're waiting to see patients. We're assuming patients are going to then be loaded up on those stretchers, put in the ambulances, and brought to other hospitals. We can tell you right now that if we see up here, this building is probably 16 to 20 stories high. We don't see from where we are here, ground level, really anybody in these, at least the first floor rooms right now. We haven't seen any patients coming out yet. That should be happening. We see some of the stretchers waiting in the lobby. Barbara, can you come forward a bit? Can you just come over a bit? Let's see if we can go zoom into the lobby there. You'll see there are fire officials in there. There also is a lot of hospital staff, as you can imagine. They're there. I've also seen several groups of course, worried family members. They're seeing this on the news. They're hearing this, and they're coming down here. As you can imagine, you would be totally worried and upset to find out where your loved one is and what's being taken. Again, everything at this point, NYPD here, fire, again, at least 2-3 dozen ambulances waiting. They're all in that lobby area right now. What the thing I'm trying to figure out and trying to get an answer, of course, we just got here, is if the backup generators are down, how do you get the patients from those upper floors down? I think that's probably something they're working on right now. I haven't had a chance to dash over yet and get a bit more information. But again, kind of a moving part. There are a lot of moving parts to the scene out here. And again, Amy, I think I was just hearing her, the wind. Oh, look, here's your first patient. There's a patient now being loaded into an ambulance. It looks like there are several nurses with her. Maybe even a family member. So that's the first one we've seen come down. Where that patient is going right now, we're not sure. Doesn't look like an urgent or critical situation from what we can see from here. But they're loading them up, again, heading down on First Avenue. We'll probably start to see more of that. That's what's happening here.
If you think about it, this is truly a daunting undertaking if you consider the variety of patients that they have. And where do you start? Do you start with patients who are in the intensive care unit? Do you start with patients who are in the emergency room? But this is truly a daunting undertaking for anyone that is over there. And Kim, you bring up a very good point. You know, the NYU is several stories high, so how do you even begin to get some of those patients down and into those ambulances?
Exactly, Liz. I'm seeing another patient coming out here. Barbara, can you pan over there? There's another patient there. I can't. Oh, wait, is that? I think it's a baby.
And that brings up another good point.
That is, hold on, Barbara, let's go over here. Hold on. I think it appears to have been, hold on, I want to show you this live. I can't see. Oh my goodness, guys! This is a infant. Yes, it is an infant.
Your heart goes out to the family and anyone,
my goodness,
any patient
yes.
under this situation. Tough enough dealing with a storm of this magnitude in a hospital, but then finding out the hospital that is there to care for you, suddenly the backup generator goes out, and now you have to move to a new facility. It's
yeah, I mean, this patient here, obviously a much more serious situation. There are what appears to be oxygen tanks. Here's another woman coming out here. So we are beginning to see the patients coming down on the stretchers. And again, there is no shortage of ambulances. Let me show you this again here up First Avenue. They wrap all the way around 30th Street. They go over to 2nd Avenue. So there are plenty of beds, plenty of paramedics standing by to get these folks to a facility that is up and running.
And I'm sure many of the hospitals in the area right now are doing what they can to help out, because we were receiving releases throughout the day that many of them were going to stay open, that they were very confident that their backup generators were going to get the job done and that they would be there for patients, now helping out a fellow hospital.
Right. We did receive word that Sloan Kettering was receiving some of these patients. And Mayor Bloomberg earlier this afternoon said that every emergency room would stay open throughout this storm, obviously generators working.
Another thing that it cannot be pleasant for many reasons for these patients to be transported. But I think it was Amy just before you guys came to me. I was listening. These wind gusts were getting them. Another band is coming through. It had died down a bit. We drove here from the financial district, and it was kind of quiet. Although let me tell you, it was pitch black down in parts of 5th Avenue, 15th Street, and it was kind of quiet. But I am feeling those wind gusts again picking up. So add that to already a very stressful, anxious situation.
Oh, it certainly is, and your heart really just goes out for the patients that are being taken out of that hospital in a very fragile situation to begin with. Kimberly, can you give us a sense of what the area is like around you? Are there a lot of first responders that are there helping out the EMTs and the ambulance workers there?
Oh, they are so on point, and they are so on this. They're waiting. They are ready to dash in there. Many of them, again, like I said, in the lobby area of the hospital. So they are there waiting. There's no delay. This is an operation that is moving them down, getting them on the beds. We're starting to see that happen and get them out of here. First responders, EMTs, we have fire. Yeah, we're fully staffed out here.
And it seems from the few that we just saw on TV that people are composed, that there's not a panic, that there seems to be a sense of control in terms of dealing with this emergency.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things, as you've heard, whether it's fire or paramedics, they train for situations like these. We show you all the time on the news the mock drills, the mock disasters, and this is it. Barbara's wiping the lens. Sorry, the rain is coming down. But this is the stuff these guys train for. And so they're, you know, they've got it under control. They are calm. No one really concerned with us right now being here, which is good. We want to show you these pictures and get you to them.
And we're just learning, Kimberly, that there are 215 patients there that are right now having trouble getting in contact with their families, telling them what the situation is, and then the fact that they are going to be leaving that hospital and being taken to a hospital that at this point they probably don't know where it is going to be.
No, probably not. But if they are watching, I can reassure them that, as you mentioned, this is a very orderly. Everybody is okay. It seems like they've got a really good handle on getting folks out here.
Yeah, Kimberly, tell me, have you heard if this has caused any fatalities or if this has added to any of the problems, the medical situation that some of the patients have had?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time? I couldn't hear you.
I was asking if you had heard yet if this emergency situation with the backup generator going down had caused either any fatalities or had made medical problems worse as a result of what the situation was there.
I have not been able to, I haven't heard that yet. I haven't been able to get over confirm. Here's another patient coming out on a stretcher. I'm sorry, I haven't gotten those details or gotten that head
Understandable.
yet.
And the electricity, I mean, it seems like there's some light on in the hospital. What are you seeing in terms of power there?
Again, I am so sorry. I have not been able to get over there. We wanted to just drop anchor, get up live, get to you. So I don't have a ton of information yet. I'm going to get that to you.
I will say
you're right. There are lights. So I'm not sure what that situation is. How if the backup generators are not working, then yes, I'm not sure.
And this looks like it's another child that is being brought out right now. It appears.
Let me see. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it appears.
Yes, another little one.
The other thing.
Another little one. And as you can see, all hands on deck there. You see these guys? Yeah, there are three of them on the street. There are three of them there. Are you a family member, ma'am? No. Okay. There are three paramedics there. On top of this.
Yeah, and working so incredibly hard, and it appears that with each patient that comes out, it looks like there is a nurse or a doctor that is going with them into the ambulance as well.
Yes, the children, that breaks your heart. But again, looks like in good hands. Yeah, getting them out of here.
And it's hard for me to see from the camera position. What's the conditions like right now? It doesn't look like it's kicking up windy too bad right now. Is it raining where you're standing?
It's just drizzling right now, but they're those gusts. They're wind gusts. It's not sustained. It's whipping around out here. The trees are definitely blowing. Let me show you. Oh, this is interesting. Look down. This is down First Avenue. Take a look down there. That's looking north on First Avenue. It is ominous. I can't tell if there's water on the roadway down there. That's probably around 34th Street, 35th Street. There are traffic lights, but if you look in some of these buildings, the residential buildings, they are also without power. So still a sticky, kind of messy situation out here.
Yeah, it certainly looks very dark in many of those buildings there, Kimberly.
Yep.
Kim, as the ambulances that you see with patients leave, are you seeing more empty ambulances come closer to the hospital to take other patients elsewhere?
Yes, as one takes off and leaves, I'm sorry, as one take, that was one of those gusts. The gusts are coming out. As one ambulance takes a patient and puts them in the ambulance, yes, the other one's here, kind of inch forward, the next one comes up. So it's a definite caravan, as you would, of ambulances here.
All right, Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson.
Thank
again,
you,
we're following this breaking story as we cover Hurricane Sandy as it came ashore a couple of hours ago. But NYU Langone Medical Center being evacuated right now. Hundreds of patients being taken elsewhere because their backup generator has failed, and they need to move those patients elsewhere. As much of the lower Manhattan has been dealing with, we do not have power in our main studio for a little bit of time. We understand that power is now up and running, so we're going to go ahead and send it back over to our main studio, and that's where Bill Ritter and Sade Badarainwa are.
All right, thanks you two. That was just dramatic footage we saw from Kimberly Richardson at NYU Langone Medical Center of people being evacuated from that building and transferred to other hospitals.
And it certainly touched your heart seeing those kids being moved out. You know, this is such a dangerous situation here. We saw that newborn being taken into the ambulance and then followed by another young child hooked up to tubes.
How often does that happen? A backup generator at a major medical center doesn't work. It does not happen very often. We're going to just go seamlessly. We have our own power issues. Now, if my numbers are right, we have 3.2 million households, customers throughout in the tri-state without power. If my math is right, that's about 1 out of 3 households in all the tri-state now without power. How long that's going to last, we simply don't know. You can watch our newscast if you have anything, any juice left in your computer, your portable computer, laptop, or your iPhone or your iPad or any other tablet. We are online doing that.
We certainly are. And we want to go on the phone with Chief Russell Tippett, who is with the Coast Guard. And Chief, thank you so much for joining us. I understand you are helping with evacuations in Brooklyn and Queens.
That's correct. We have been receiving numerous calls of people in distress, especially out in far Rockaways and in Coney Island.
Okay. And can you tell us about some of those rescues that are underway, some of those calls that are being...
Well, really right now, we're asking people to be as patient as possible. We do have a limited capacity for getting Coast Guard boats out in this weather right now. And so we're working hand in hand with our partner agency, the New York Fire Department, to assist in some of those rescues. So the New York Fire Department is taking many of those cases for us, but we do have each case logged, and we're getting to everyone as soon as possible.
How many calls have you? How many calls have you received, Chief?
As of about 10 minutes ago, we have 34 cases documented and 103 people in need of assistance.
Oh, and how many Coast Guards do you have there and dedicated to Brooklyn and Queens?
Well, that's the thing. Right now, we still don't have any boats out there. We're still waiting on these winds to die down. And as the conditions improve, we're going to be out there and in full force, really. We also have helicopter crews that are going to be coming in the morning.
And Chief, you know, you guys were called in to help in this effort here with Sandy. I'm sure you've talked to many men and women in the Coast Guard. What are they saying? Is this what they expected?
You know, I think that's one of the good things that the federal government really got right this year. We really got the message out there for people to prepare. And I can say I think a lot of people heeded the warning this year. I think people were well prepared, and so I think this is a lot better than it could have been. You know, we like to say we hope for the best, but prepare for the absolute worst.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of people did, Chief, and we have a big problem anyway. Chief Russell Tippett with the Coast Guard that's been taking lots of phone calls, 34 distress calls so far, giving a lot of them to the Fire Department of New York, which, of course, has been incredibly overtaxed. Chief, thanks for your time, and good luck overnight tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We now want to go to Kristen Thorne, who is still in West Islip. Kristen, what are the conditions there now?
You know, now really no wind as bad as we have seen. It was really, really bad a couple hours ago, and now it's now we're getting back into the rain again and this sort of spritzing going on. But you know, it's at least comforting that there isn't a lot of wind, because it was actually getting kind of scary out here for a while, because when we were out here, you could hear branches cracking, you could hear things flying. In fact, I did just hear something over there, and you just kind of look to try to see where things might be coming from. 685,000 people without power right now on Long Island. We talked to some people here in West Islip. This is one of the neighborhoods dealing with this, one of the many. People have their candles out, they have their flashlights. You know, unfortunately, they can't watch us anymore, so they were very asking me what is going on. Do you know what's happening with the storm? So really just a lot of concern here. We are going to have to see what this all looks like in the morning. Back to you guys.
Okay. Kristen.
Okay, well, now we want to go to Lee Goldberg. And Lee, I understand we've got one more bad batch until about 2 or 3 in the morning.
It's moving through New Jersey. It's not so much over Long Island. It's parts of New Jersey, it's New York City. The Hurricane Center has actually said good riddance to Sandy. Last advisory issued as of 11 o'clock. It's actually 10 miles to the southwest of Philadelphia, so now they're no longer issuing it on the storms. I'll get back to the planner. If there's any way that we can get over to the other weather source in the AccuTrack, I just want to show you some of the wind gusts and where that heavy batch is. It's really centered over parts of northern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, and just getting out of New York City. Thank you, guys. Our wind wind gusts are now below the 60-mile-an-hour shot in most places. The 75, you can ignore that. That got stuck in the gauges a couple hours ago, so those are more representative of what's going on right now. And a lot of these winds are out of the southeast rather than that northeast that we endured all day. Well, why is that? Well, here's the circulation right here. So the wind is coming in this way now. That still technically is pushing the waters in, but what we've noticed is that water levels have been able to recede, which is great news because we're concerned about the tide not even being able to go out. So the water levels have begun to fall, and that means that the high tide cycle during the morning will probably feature minor to moderate flooding, but nothing like we saw tonight. Now, talking about that last batch that Sade referred to, this is essentially the eastern side of the circulation of Sandy right here, which is going over Pennsylvania. And as this begins to interact with that front and all that energy that's out to the west, it has really blossomed into an area of showers and some squalls. So there's still one more parting shot. Now, it's not really for Long Island anymore or for Connecticut, but you can see over parts of New Jersey, it's actually getting pretty heavy. We saw that with Phil Lipoff earlier, but now basically if you're in places like Mahwah and then down to the Newark area and Livingston and then back up to places like West Milford and into Flemington and Dover, it's really pulsing up here. I mean, it's getting gusty. Then you get in the Hudson Valley and places like Chappaqua and Mount Kisco. That's probably not too far from Tarrytown. It's just to the north of 287. And then you get up in Orange County, not too far from Newburgh and Middletown. It's gusty. It's squally right now. Expect that for another couple of hours, and then it will begin to move out and conditions will get better. The circulation of Sandy will continue to move through Pennsylvania, then start to sweep through upstate New York. We don't get to get rid of Sandy, so the showery type nature. Still some gusty breezes. That's something we're going to deal with right through tomorrow. It's not until Wednesday when we get a decent shot to see a couple of breaks of sun. There could be a couple breaks of sun over the eastern half of Long Island tomorrow, but still, big circulation off its peak intensity. When the last advisory came out of post-tropical storm Sandy, winds of 75 miles an hour. That just means that it's a hybrid. It's part tropical and also, morphing into more of a nor'easter type situation. If the other computer is available again, I'd like to go over and just show you a planner that will take you through the morning hours tomorrow. The wind gusts are staying around 60 right now, and that'll be that way for a little while. When we wake up, the winds are still gusty, but starting to probably drop below that 60-mile-per-hour threshold, just given some of the observations that we're looking at. And then as we go into late morning, still some gusts in the 50-mile-an-hour range, but I think more typical of the area will be in the 30s and 40s. There'll still be showery conditions and windy conditions. We'll have to go through a high tide cycle that'll start between about 8 or 9 in the morning and go through about noon or 1 in the afternoon. That could still have some minor to moderate flooding. Remember, it's 11:40 right now, so we still have to go through that high tide cycle on the Sound, so we have great concern. We're places on the Sound like Kings Point, Mamaroneck, and Stamford, and all folks in the western end of the Sound that still have to go through a lot of flooding because that water is piled up. But we can certainly say we're through probably the biggest gusts with Sandy, but we still have some squally conditions over parts of New Jersey. Guys?
And what we've seen, Lee, of course, is just because there's a midnight high tide on that part of the Sound, the Connecticut part of the Sound, doesn't mean that the surge is going to end at midnight. There's certainly an after effect there.
Sure. I mean, look at how long it took. I mean, just the battery, which has now fallen, a foot and a half. I mean, it takes a long time to respond to that. And by the way, I mean, if you haven't been tuning in all night, haven't heard about all these numbers, the battery had an all-time, record surge and height level, back to the storm back in 1821, and that storm flooded up to Canal Street, and then you saw how this storm obviously flooded parts of lower Manhattan and came in on both rivers.
And we're certainly breaking all kind of records this evening.
There's no question. Lee, we've talked before about, and we talked earlier tonight, but those who missed it, to hear your perspective on this is very, I think, enlightening. We've talked before that a Category 1 we didn't think would cause this kind of damage. We're really talking Category 2, 3, or 4 would cause that kind of flooding in lower Manhattan.
That was the extreme nature of this, and that all by itself, Sandy may have been a Cat 1, but when it interacted with that storm to the west, it became this super hybrid powerhouse. And we talked about it during the work week, how it could be capable of producing damage of a Category 2 or even Category 3. The surge with a Category 3 is somewhere around 12 feet. We were around 14 feet as we got into the battery.
And Lee, we're talking about these surges of water. I mean, never before did we think Zone C would actually be impacted by water.
No doubt about it. I mean, you just have to have so much meteorologically that has to happen. Yeah. And that's exactly, I mean, when you look back and look at every little step that this storm took, you're going to say, well, I mean, that's how it had to happen there. That's how it had to happen at this juncture when it was up at the Carolinas. It had to interact with the Gulf Stream because it had to interact there, and then it had to perfectly phase with that powerful storm that was bringing all types of snows to the middle of the country, and it did all of the above, and that's how we created a storm that we'll remember for years, and basically we haven't seen in our lifetime.
I keep thinking the people, who survived and lived through that 1938 Long Island Express that killed about 1,000 people out on the island, and went up through New England, and they had no notice. And you started talking about this a week ago. What if this had just popped up on us? All these people in Manhattan, in New York City, Staten Island without power, all these hundreds of thousands of people in New Jersey without power. Without that,
I mean, the water level rise would have taken. I don't even want to think about it.
You want to think about it. But that's why so many people...
that we have the technology that we do have today, and thank goodness that, Lee, you have been out there, you know, telling everybody, warning everyone, you need to be prepared because this is a big one.
This is why so many people died in 1938. They just had no advance warning.
And now we'll be with them right through the quick cleanup. We got a long week ahead of us to get back on our feet.
Con Ed, Lee says, is going to take 3 to 4 days to bring back the 3 major networks that they preemptively shut down, Bowling Green, Fulton, and Brighton Beach. It may take a week, they say, to bring everyone else back, but they stress they just don't know for sure until they estimate and find out the exact damage.
And let's go through these numbers, Bill, since you're talking about Con Ed right now. There are numerous people without power at this hour. You can see here, New Jersey, 1.5 million people are with customers are without power. On Long Island, 684,000. In New York City, 500,000 customers without power. In Connecticut, almost the same, 493,000 without power.
And in Westchester, about 150,000. That adds up to about, I'm doing my quick math, about 3.2 million, or give or take several percentages, about 1/3 of the households in the tri-state area.
Okay, and we're going to go back to Lauren Glassberg right now, who is in the newsroom. And Lauren, you've been getting even more video coming in?
Yeah, we have video coming in, we have photos coming in, and we're really very thankful to our viewers who are sharing what they're seeing out on their streets and in their communities, because it's very important for us to disseminate some of those images and the news to you. So let's go right to video of Chelsea. This is on 15th and 8th Street. It looks like there's a scene with police activity, and if you look closely, the building right there, the facade collapses. While this person was shooting video, the facade blew right off of this building. That was at 15th and 8th, and that is a photo of what the building looks like after. Emergency crews were already there because they had been called in, and while they were there, that building blew. This is a scene in New Jersey, and many towns are looking just like this. This obviously before the sun went down. The boardwalk in that area just washed away. That ocean just going right into the town. This city island, and if you'll note on the sign, it says free dockage for boats. Well, not a lot of activity there for a while until that water drains away. This is a scaffold on Park Avenue at 499 Park Avenue. That's at 59th Street. That has blown down, and we've seen that throughout the city. Scaffold or window washing devices that are dangling. 176th Street now, the station there, the 4 train, that's at Jerome Avenue in the Bronx. The water up to about the 4th step of the stairway up to this station there. You could see a car submerged. And the dangling crane tonight, that's at 57th Street, that high rise with very expensive apartments, dangling with the moonlight behind it, not tethered, still in a very precarious situation. The buildings around 57th Street, along that corridor, many people evacuated because of that precarious situation with the crane. That happened, of course, during daylight, and that is the situation in the evening tonight. And of course, we're glad the winds have died down, because the winds are the problem there, forcing that crane to buckle over from the top. We know that engineers had gone in there to the building to survey what they could be doing to make it any safer, and it looks like there wasn't much they could do. Perhaps tomorrow they'll be able to return to the site and secure that in a better way.
Yeah, you know,
so
Lauren,
we do appreciate all our viewers sending us this video. Yep.
As we look at this picture right there, you know, we were wondering earlier tonight as we were looking at it, whether that would fail or not. The fulcrum of that is just not meant. That crane is not meant to have the weight of that top tower leaning that side away from the cab, and it has stayed, thankfully. It has maneuvered itself in that position.
That's right. You would think gravity would pull it over, and with a big gust, you would expect exactly that to happen. That's why, of course, they evacuated the area. I mean, that is just a really dangerous scene. Those cranes go up, and they're meant to be up there temporarily to do the work they need, and they bring them down. But, of course,
and certainly not hanging off the side of the building, Lauren.
Absolutely.
You know, and we heard from Lee earlier, when wind speeds were at 50, 60 miles per hour on the ground, they were about 100 miles per hour up where that crane rain is.
Yeah.
So it is battling the elements even now as we speak. So I'm sure officials and emergency personnel are keeping a close eye on this one. We are now going to go to Jeff Begase right now. Lauren, thank you so much with that new video. We are now going to go to Jeff Begase, who is in Rockaway Parks, Queens. And Jeff, we saw rescues being undertaken earlier. What's the situation now?
Well, they stopped the rescues. They think they've gotten everybody out of this fire situation, and that's it right down the block. We're on Rockaway Beach Boulevard here, and that's at about 114th Street. And what we've been told is that several structures have now gone up in flames because really there's nothing that firefighters can do at this point. Obviously, they're dealing with high water, and they're dealing with the elements, so they can't get the trucks and the water in here to put this fire out. So all they can do is stand back and at this point watch it all go up in flames. We're talking several buildings here potentially. Now I want to take a look over this way. There's another fire developing on the other side of this block. I don't know what street that is, but we see a glow in the air in the sky over there. So firefighters tell me they think there's a fire developing on this side of Rockaway Park as well. And then over in the distance this way, and this is heading west toward Manhattan, also in the Rockaways area, another fire. You see the glow in the sky over there. So there are several developing situations here as a result of Sandy moving through this area. And I can show you these fires because the water has receded quite a bit. It's still raining here. The wind isn't blowing as strong as it was a couple of hours ago, and the water has receded. And so we're able to get a better look of what's going on in this area, including this developing fire, which as I said, is still going strong, and there may be some other fires developing as a result as well. We think that that may have started because of a down power line. That's what we're being told right now. Among the structures in that area, we're being told it's a Social Security office as well as a deli and a Papa John's. So those are some of the structures that are being engulfed by flames right now. But perhaps the most important thing is that there were several people who lived in some of those structures as well. And members of this specialized FDNY unit, the SOC unit, had to go into these buildings while the water was up to their chest in some cases, and they had to go in boats to get down to that area when the water was higher. And this was about at high tide when the water came crashing into this area, not only from the Atlantic Ocean that way, but from Jamaica Bay that way. And through that, this specialized FDNY unit went down this street in their boat, some of them wading through high water, and had to rescue several people. At last count, we're told several dozen people, maybe as many as 35 to 40 people rescued from down this block as this fire began to spread. And some of these members of this SOC unit were telling me that some of the people didn't want to leave until they noticed that the fire was getting way too close. And at that point, they acquiesced and went with the members of this FDNY unit who were down the block trying to get them out before this fire reached their homes.
Dramatic scene there, Jeff. You know, I just asked Lee Goldberg, what is the wind speed there? And he said it's about 53 miles per hour. And I know that